Hello, hello, hello. First things first. Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? See, that was almost a copyright infringement, but not quite. I didn't do the whole lyric. All right, I still am getting a little set up here. Hello, everyone. Got some people in the chat. We got Terry, we got Jam Scott. We got M. Hardy. Excellent, excellent. I still expect that there's going to be few of you here because this is still new. But I think as people get used to the fact that I'll be doing this every week, it will be every week, although it'll be alternating days, so that'll probably screw people up. I think as people get used to it, we might see some more people here. So that's cool. That's the idea. Anyway, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me here. Yeah, a couple things. As I said on Patreon, I am going to do alternating weeks. I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if this works, but I'm going to do alternating weeks. Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. CST, because that's my time zone. And then the following week will be Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. Now, why am I doing this? Because I want to give especially the Europeans a chance to participate, because that's pretty late. 7 p.m. CST is pretty late for them, and some Australians too. We get some Aussies every now and then, so I don't want to leave them in the dark. Oh yes, hello, Mr. 386. You are from Europe. Oh, excellent. Well, welcome. Yes. Uh-oh, Terry's saying, has the stream started and I'm missing it? Are you all seeing me? Please tell me you're seeing me. M. Hardy 99 says that you can hear me, but can you see me? I'm still getting used to this setup, so it's possible I may have not hit a button. Okay, Jam Scott, I'm seeing and hearing you. Okay, good. All right. So Terry, something's wrong, Terry. What's happening, Terry? It's wrong. Excellent, because this is what I'm seeing here. That's no good. But then the others, look. Can you hear me? Can you hear me running? Anyway, we are here. So as I was saying, I'm going to do this every week, alternating Wednesdays and Saturdays. If that works, that may throw people off too much. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still trying this out, still trying to figure this out. But I do want to give a chance for people all over the globe to be able to participate, because that's the whole thing. Anyway, I got some ideas about the other kind of stuff I want to do for Patreon. What I was thinking about doing, this might be just for like maybe D12 level behind the scenes stuff. I haven't decided yet, but what I was thinking about doing was doing kind of a stream like this, but it would be like a live director's commentary of some of the episodes of Me, Myself, and Die, where we would watch pieces of it and I would stop and I would talk about, the process of making that show at that time, or the process of solo role-playing in that moment. If I can remember, I mean, season 1 was like 6 years ago now, but anyway, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about doing, that and much more. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube and you do want to participate in the next one, consider joining the memberships or over on Patreon. So what have we got? There's a lot going on behind the scenes, of course, with the Broken Empires. And again, I don't want to talk entirely about the Broken Empires, but there is a lot going on. Things are going well, really well. We are accelerating towards the light at the end of the tunnel, which I hope isn't an oncoming train. But I've been playtesting the Smoldering Ember again, which is the adventure in the starter set. It's pretty cool. It is. I don't want to say too much about it, but it is definitely not a location-based dungeon crawl or anything like that. It's pretty big. It's big picture. Lots of stuff going on. And yeah, the people going through it right now are digging it. So, and it's fun. It's fun to run. So everything is well. Everything is well. Anyway, in terms of the topics for today, I'm open. I had a few things I wanted to talk about, and then I got busy and I forgot to write them down. So I'm open on talking about whatever you guys want to talk about. Oh, there is a question actually from one of my patrons, actually, Tobias. Tobias was wondering, he says, what do you believe are the most valuable tools in an RPG for solo role-playing? Well, I've done a lot of talking about this. I did a video, the sort of 9 tips for solo role-playing, which I did that a couple years ago. It's one of my best performing videos, actually. So you can watch that if you haven't seen it. But generally, tools for solo role-playing for me, I'd probably give a different answer now than I did a few years ago, but I would say that for me, the most important thing is a solid oracle, a definite oracle that gives you enough stuff to launch your imagination, but not so much that you're drowning in options. For example, Mythic GM Emulator 2, I love that book, but I honestly don't use a ton of it, at least not at the table when I'm doing the show. Because when I'm doing the show, I have so many other things going on, especially running the Broken Empires as a solo game takes a lot of cognitive focus. So the fewer oracular devices I have at the table, the better, but they have to be solid, right? They have to encompass. And for me, Mythic certainly fits that bill. Mythic gives me everything I need to know to make that happen. So yeah, a solid oracle is important, as GM Scott says. Oracles, absolutely. But also, honestly, just the most important tool is your own self-drive to actually sit down and play, because for a lot of people, that's the biggest thing is, oh, well, I should really prepare more. That is what I will say, that preparation can be death. Over-preparation is, at some point becomes an excuse for not playing. And so at some point you just got to go, you know what? That's enough. I've got enough. We're just going to do it. And then you sit down and do it. I think I may have said this before too, but it is the truth. It is absolutely the truth. We have some comments here. I want to see. Let's see here. What do we have? GM Scott, is it like a collection of adventure locations a la Forbidden Lands? Oh, you're talking about Smoldering Ember, which of course is the starter set adventure for the Broken Empires? Not exactly. There is a plot. It is a starter adventure. It's an introductory adventure. So what I'd call it a focused sandbox. So there's a big area, and the player characters have very specific goals that tie to achieving a very specific thing. But how they do that, the methods that they employ to do that, the places they go to do that, are all entirely up to them. So essentially, it's like you're playing pre-gens in the starter set. So the pre-gens all come with goals that are very much tied to the situation around the adventure. But the idea is that they have, like I said, they have like this, what I call a super objective. There's this thing they definitely need to do. And then they have a number of leads that could take them there. They could take an absolute direct route if they want, but it behooves them to try different things. It all makes sense when you read it. So there is a bunch of different quote-unquote adventure locations to come back in. Oh, my goodness. Okay. This happened to me last time, too, and I have no idea why. I suspect, actually, it has something to do with my Stream Deck. My Stream Deck has this weird thing it does where it suddenly wants me to sign in, and I don't want to sign in for various reasons. But I think when that happens, it interrupts the flow with OBS and YouTube, because I think that's what happened last time too. So that is excruciatingly annoying. Anyway, hopefully it doesn't happen again. So where was I? Talking about the adventures. Yes. So yeah, it's like a focused sandbox. So the players are free to go wherever they want, but there's particular places that they should go and that they're told maybe they should look into. But if they don't have to, they're absolutely not. And there's a ticking clock, right? That they have to achieve a certain thing before time runs out. So there's that pressure that is on them as well. But is good. Let's see. What do we got here? 2 questions. Which part of the Broken Empires are you most proud of? Oh boy, that's a big question. And which part did you find the most challenging to design, requiring the most iterations? Well, I'll take the second part first. The entire thing had to be redesigned multiple times. I tried originally to keep a log of all the different versions. And in fact, I tried to keep I mean, I do have a log of the versions on paper, but what I mean is I tried to do a running video log about creating the project. That's when I thought I could do this whole thing in 6 months. Turns out it was over 2 years. So I ran out of gas for that very quickly. But when I do go back and look at some of that stuff, it's like it was a completely different game. But what's interesting, though, is that the philosophy behind the game is all the same. It's just the details of how it's implemented. And even that, it really is completely in the little details, right? Like things like, I've talked about this before, the idea of using a phased initiative system versus a more traditional initiative system, things like that. In the end, it's still a game with rounds and turns and people go at certain times, but it's just how you choose to implement that, right? So there's something in the game called expertise, which basically gives you a minimum amount of success levels you get when you roll. It's like a floor. It raises the floor. That was an addition to the game that came to avoid crazy swinginess with really high skills. But all of this stuff was developed over, 2.5 years of constant playtesting. And I mean constant every day. So it's really hard to answer that question. Which part did I find most challenging? But if I had to pick one, it would be the magic system, because the magic system is designed to be an open magic system, a freeform magic system, and that is kind of impossible. Kind of. Every magic system ever made really comes down to spell lists in the end. And I didn't want spell lists. I was like, no, there's got to be a way around spell lists. So I really looked at things like Mage, and I looked at Ars Magica, and I looked at all of these other games that, toyed with that. GURPS Thaumaturgy, is that what it was called, that supplement? But in the end, even when you're taking pieces and putting them together, what you're effectively doing is creating spell lists. So once I admitted that, I was like, oh, okay, well, now that takes the burden of reinventing the wheel off of my shoulders, and that made things a lot easier to do. The magic system is cool. It's wild. It's cool. The players really like it. Everyone who's ever used it, they're scared of it, as they should be, but they like it. So that, and then the first part of your question, which part of the Broken Empires am I most proud of? The fact that people actually wanted to come on board and support it, honestly, and that might sound like a cop-out answer, but it's the truth. The fact that like 5,000 people said, you know what, that sounds cool, because that told me that I wasn't crazy. It told me that there was, in fact, an unserved, or rather an underserved market out there of people that wanted something with a little more meat on the bones, right? Something along the lines of a Harnmaster or a Mithras, but maybe not without all that kind of detail. Something that used a lot of really cool concepts from all these other games, but put them together in a way that actually worked. Now that alone, the idea of Frankensteining together a system for various other systems, I'm not the first one to try that. God knows, lots of people have tried that and typically failed miserably, and people are very skeptical of that when people talk about it. Oh yeah, well that never works. Well, except it works this time. So I don't know what to tell you. There was a guy on the N-World forums. Oh, by the way, for those of you who didn't know, N-World, the RPG forum had I don't want to call it a contest, like a survey, basically, where they voted for the most anticipated game of 2026, and there was like 10,000 votes, apparently, and you guys nominated the Broken Empires, which is great, and we actually made the list. We are number 6. We are right behind Warhammer, 5th edition. I believe it's 5th edition. And Ars Magica, the re-release of Ars Magica. So that was pretty cool. Not bad at all. So thank you to all of you who voted. No matter where you are, no matter what your membership level or YouTube subscriber level or whatever it is, I appreciate that very, very much. Okay. Back to pre-planning ideas for solo. Oh, solo tools, things like Tome of Adventure Design. Yeah, I've used Tome of Adventure Design before. It's really cool. I really, really dug it. It has a very particular style to it. Like if you're going for a sort of more high magic sword and sorcery, classic D&D-ish stuff, maybe classic OSR stuff, then it's great. Not so great if you're doing something a little lower fantasy. You have to really sift through some of the crazy results to get something usable. But after Season 3, you made a comment that you tried to use the Adventure Crafter, but it didn't work so well. I was wondering if you'd elaborate. Yeah, so I used the Adventure Crafter in Season 3 when Edbert was in the temple in the swamps, the temple to Devona, as it turned out. And it was a new tool that I'd never used before, so bear that in mind. I was literally learning it as I was doing it. So it felt a little clunky to me, and that may be just because it was unfamiliar to me. But what I found was there was a little too much bookkeeping, and it was a little too much bookkeeping that created a lot of samey responses. So I found I was struggling with it a little bit. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. I'm sure there's people out there that love it and it works great for them, and that's cool. But yeah, for me, I felt that there's better ways to create something on the fly in the moment. In fact, even The Perilous Wilds by Jason Lutz, I believe, has a really interesting way to generate dungeons as you go. I did that in season 1 with the Temple of Thurzan, I think it was called, where Edward and Simon were going through there. Multiple times, actually. They returned to that temple a few times. And that was generated by the Perilous Wild system, which also was a little frustrating in the moment just because I was unfamiliar with it. But as I got used to it, I was like, oh, okay, I think this is neat. So yeah, it's not that I think the Adventure Crafter is a bad thing or anything. It's just that for me, with my particular style, something like the Perilous Wilds was a little more friendly. Soloing freeform with Mythic is fun, but I've experimented with some ways to bring a little more structure, but I'm still working through it. What I really liked about Mythic, especially the first edition, was the structure that it provides. A lot of people are hot and cold on Chaos Factor. I like Chaos Factor because Chaos Factor keeps things unpredictable. I like the scene-by-scene structure. I like the interrupt or altered scene pattern that happens at the beginning of every scene because it always keeps you on your toes. And obviously, it also throws wrenches in plans, and that's what you want when you're doing a solo because there's no GM to do that. So if you just trust yourself to come up with something interesting, you'll probably fail. I would fail. So I need an Oracle system or an emulator system that really throws me some curves balls, and that's what I like, especially about just the basic Mythic First Edition. For me, it was like 3 pages, and that was enough. That got me through endless amounts of numbers of sessions. Linear sandboxes are great for intro adventures. Oh, I think, yeah, GM Scott, I think you were talking about I think you had mentioned something about how it seemed cool, what I was doing with Smoldering Emperor. And that's true. I'm not a big D&D fan, but even I have to admit that the Mines of Phandelver is a really good adventure, at least its structure. I had to completely rewrite the ending and rewrite a lot of aspects of it to give it a little more connective tissue, but generally speaking, I thought it was a great structure because it threw the player characters into an immediate situation that they had to deal with, an immediate conflict, and then it left it up to them how they wanted to deal with the situation. So, I'm sure we all know Phandelver by this point, but basically you start off, a dwarven friend of yours has been kidnapped, and you've tracked him to the Goblin Caves. That's where the adventure starts. And you've got to get through the caves and look for a clue, and eventually about his location, and eventually you find enough to go on, and then you go to this little town, Phandelver. Phandalin is the name of the town, right? And you meet a bunch of key NPCs that you can interact with at your leisure. You can also use those NPCs to tie in to the player character's background. So, like, one of our characters was a halfling thief, and I tied him into... There was a halfling NPC in there who ran a bakery or something like that. So they were related in this version. So that gave him a reason to go there. Little things like that was just really... It was great. Great fodder to give the PC something to do. And then from that point on, they're free to go wherever they want. And there is a quote-unquote plot, but how the PC's approach it is totally up to them. So I thought it was great. Again, had to do some work on it. But you know what? We're all going to do work on our own stuff. You know, you guys might see a Smoldering Ember go, this is really good, but I need this to change. That's what happens. That's perfectly fine. Make it your own. That's what it's designed to do. That's what they expected to happen anyway. Where are we here? Oh yeah, dropout. These dropouts, just terrible. Pitbull, how would you describe a phase system in any game, really? Does it represent more archaic battle tactics? Or no, I wouldn't call it archaic. There's many different versions of it, but a phase system just means, like, for me, the model is Rollmaster or MERPS, right? Where every round is structured into turns based on what you're doing in the round rather than when you do it. Well, that's not exactly accurate. It's like this. Every round is structured something like this. First of all, everybody who's casting a spell casts a spell. Then anybody who's firing bows fires, or missile weapons fires missile weapons. Then anybody who's moving moves. And then anybody who's engaged in melee combat does that. And then anybody who's doing anything else does that. Stuff like that, right? So every round is based on the phase of activity that you are choosing to engage in. When I first saw that in Rollmaster, it was very alien because I'd come up from D&D, of course. And D&D was you roll a d6 and whoever gets highest goes first. A lot of D&D, early D&D was side initiative as well, right? Your side rolls 1d6, the enemies roll 1d6, and then everybody goes at the same time. And there's infinite, variations of all of these since. But phase initiative just basically means if you're going to shoot an arrow, you're going to do it at a very particular point of that round. Now, why do people like this? Because it creates a different tactical environment. You have to think about the tactical state in a different way. I wouldn't say one superior to the other. It's just different. It's kind of a novelty for me, honestly. But what I found when I implemented it in the Broken Empires was that I didn't like it. It didn't work for reasons. In the end, it's just a subjective thing. You either like it aesthetically or you don't, and it just didn't quite work for me. But I love it in Against the Dark Master, which is the MERPS clone. I think it works great there. If I go back to old Rollmaster, now that I know how it works, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just a different form of doing things. I'm really stoked for it and pre-ordered the starter set, but I don't have friends who like role-playing games. That's a tragedy. Is it possible to get the community together to play for loners like me? Maybe Discord or something. Well, we do have a Discord. There's an open Discord for the Broken Empires. And if you ask me how to join it, I can't tell you. That's not my thing. I have a guy who does that, but but I know it exists. I know that it's open to people who want to come and talk and organize that kind of thing. So yeah, that is absolutely something that can happen. I really enjoy detail when it's reasonably intuitive and flows well. Yes, I think we were talking about the solo Oracle stuff here. But of course, for me, that that statement applies to system too, especially combat system. I really enjoy detail when it is reasonably intuitive and it flows well. But there's a point where it's just that much too much, and that point is always subjective. This is the thing that the N-World thing kind of pissed me off too, because they mischaracterized what the game is in their description of it. I think they misread the materials on the Kickstarter page, because they were implying that it's this really fast game, really, really fast. It's all about fast. I never said that. What I said was this game, like every game, exists on a spectrum between detail of resolution and speed of resolution. And because it's still a simulationist game, it's very much on the detail of resolution side. But because it's sim light, I pull it back from the brink of that simulationism back towards the center to have a reasonable speed of play. And a lot of people miss that, and they say, oh, sim light, that's rules light. No, it is not rules light. Oh, it's super fast play, because speed is everything. Speed is not everything. Let me just say, speed is not everything. So, yeah, that bothered me to the point where I was like, I should write them and say, you screwed up. But then I thought, oh, that'll look so petty. That'll look so petty. I can't help how people interpret or misinterpret what I write. It's just going to happen. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Terry voted. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. I've tried making Frankenstein's game too, and I just ended up tinkering with it for a year, and it never felt good. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from the Broken Empire so far. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I know the feeling, man. I have a very good friend of mine. Stone Skills is his handle. And he has been tinkering with his own game, well, for basically as long as I've known him. What's interesting about his game, though, is that he essentially recreates systems almost exactly without ever understanding that they existed in the first place, and not in a heartbreaker way, not in a I have come up with an excellent and superior way of doing initiative that no one has ever thought of, when in fact 20 years ago they thought of it. Not in that way. In the way that he really considers the kind of tactical environment he wants in a combat, for example. And so the system that he came up with for initiative was basically Hackmaster 5, which is count up initiative. There's no rounds. Everybody goes on the number. And when you do a thing, it costs a certain beat, basically. So, like if you swing a sword, it costs you 5. So if you're going on 8, let's say, and you swing a sword and that costs you 5, then you don't go until 13. So that is a really interesting way of doing things. It becomes a bit of an organizational nightmare if you're a GM who's trying to handle, say, 15 goblins who are attacking. But he independently, like in the zeitgeist, came up with that system. He'd never even heard of Hackmaster 5. So it's fascinating to me how people come up with stuff like that, because it happens all the time, right? We are all ultimately working on the same game at the same time. We don't even know it. But yes, it can be. Trying to Frankenstein things together can be fraught with failure and frustration, which is why I understand when people say that, when they say, oh, it can't be done. But it can be done because I just did it. And you know, what I did may not be loved by you. You might think, oh, I hate that. And that's fine. It's all subjective, right? But it does work mechanically. It does work technically, so it can be done. So there you go. Speaking of generating dungeons, where did you get those dungeon crawl tiles cards used in season 4? Yeah, that was when Vale and Thrag were going in the Undercity looking for the Death Knight. Those I bought at Gen Con. They're called Dungeni, something like that. It was at a booth, and I saw them and went, oh, this looks cool, and I bought them for like $10 or whatever. And they're pretty cool. They're pretty fun. They have a whole bunch, because I think I saw that booth again last year when I was there, and they had a bunch more, but I didn't buy any more. I should have, because they're really neat. So yeah, I can't remember. I have them in the studio in the shooting room, but I don't want to get them right now. Speaking of generating dungeons, although not necessarily on the fly, have you seen the hexagon system from Mythic Bastionland? Yeah, I have. I bought my copy from Chris McDowell himself at Gen Con this year. Signed copy. It's funny. First of all, let me say Chris is a great guy, and he makes very, very, very lean and efficient games. They're not for me, because his games are a little too light. You know, I've said that there's games, simulationist games, that are a little bit too heavy on the detail. So for me, his games are a little too light on the detail. So for me, when I look at Chris's games like Into the Odd or Bastionland, on that spectrum between detail of resolution and speed of play, he's way over here to speed of play, almost to the point where I'm reading the book going, but where are the rules? And that can be really hard on new GMs, especially if you're not, like if you are a new GM, this argument has been made before, not just by me. I had a conversation with Professor Dungeon Master about that too. The fact that rules light games are actually way harder to GM if you are new to the thing. But even I read this book and I went, yeah, but what do I do? Me, I've been GMing for like 50 years or something crazy. And I was like, yeah, but what do you do? Anyway, that's an aside. Everybody loves that game, and the art is beautiful. It's just a tremendous product to look at. But for me, it's not really my thing. But in terms of the hexagon system from Bastionland, so this is a way of designing landscapes, designing journeys, designing dungeons, and I can't speak with authority on it, but I do know that I read it, and again, I felt like it doesn't give me quite enough mechanical support to really grok it, to really understand to really understand the intentional way to use it. So I think what I need to do is talk to him and say, hey, man, run me through a game of this, because, you know, who better than the creator himself? Fandelver, my players took that adventure so far off the rails. I ended up not using the book after second level. Well, great. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate sandbox experience, right? Where the players just do whatever you want and you go, okay, let's go with it. So, you know, that's good. That can as long as it's fun, right? As long as it's fun. Getting spell interrupted hits different. Yes, was that in reference to the phase initiative, maybe? Since season 4 is about to end, am I correct? You are correct. Have you thought about what system you'd like to play next? It'd be fun to see you play against the Dark Master. The idea of doing anything next right now is so far from my brain, I can't even begin to tell you. But I will tell you this, that the next thing I'm going to do on the channel is a little game called Rangers of Shadowdeep, because I love that minis game. I did a one-off of a werewolf adventure on the channel. You could find it, which I'm super proud of. It was just a one-off thing, but it was really great, and I love the system. I love it. It's so much fun, and the campaigns that come with the core book are really cool, so I want to do it, and I'm going to do it on the channel. So that's what's going to happen. Now, how much of that actually gets out to YouTube and how much gets, shunted just to my patrons is another question, but I'm definitely going to do it for sure. Against the Dark Master was fantastic to run. It scratched my Rollmaster itch, but much simpler and with fantastic additions like Passions and Drive. Yes, I agree. For those of you who liked the old Rollmaster game or the old MERPS game and you have not checked out Against the Dark Master, I heartily recommend it. It's Middle-earth without being in Middle-earth. It's Middle-earth without being sued. Fine little system. I dig it. And quite different from D&D if you're coming from that background. Hackmaster, a fantastic board game battle simulator. Yeah, I suppose. I have not run it, so I'm not going to speculate. I've seen it run, and I've read it, and I've talked to people who've run it. And I'm really, really curious to run it. Like I'm champing at the bit to run it because I want to see, I want to feel what it's like to run this thing. And if indeed it is as complicated to keep track of things as it looks like it is, then I'll know. But I'm not going to judge it until I actually play it. Hackmaster is like turning on one of those old electric football machines where everything just goes to the center and moves in a circle. Okay. I don't have enough experience to know. Mythic Bastionland is not for me either, but that hex generator is fire. Okay, well, I will have another look at it then. If you guys are thinking that hex generator thing is a cool tool to use, because I'm all about good tools. Speaking of creating Frankensteinish RPGs, I'm trying to design a D6 pool system, me too, where the D6 explodes. I've realized that there are very few D6 pool systems that use success counting. There is a game called the D6 System. Is that right? And I cannot remember the author. It came out a few years ago. It is inspired by the old WEG Star Wars game, except it's not additive. It's not an additive dice pool. So an additive dice pool is when you roll and add all the numbers and compare it to a target number. That bugs me because me and math, we're not talking very much these days. But this system, the D6 system, is counting successes. I really like it. There was a couple of sort of central flaws to it that I remember seeing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. D6 Legend? I think it is D6 Legend, yeah. But I have it, and it's good. And, of course I'd run it. I'd run anything. It's so, it claims it's generic, but really it's kind of superhero. It's like some superhero stuff. But yeah, check that one out, because it might have similarities to what you're already trying to do, or don't. I just got an oracle that banks on you failing. It's called Chthonic Delphi, and it makes the game more fun and chaotic the worse your rolls get. I've only used it twice, but it's crazy chaos fun. That sounds cool. I really like that. There was a game that somebody sent me called something of Cthulhu. Everybody and their dog makes a Cthulhu game. It's a solo game. It's specifically designed for Cthulhu, or for solo. And the conceit is it's a post-apocalyptic world and the post-apocalypse or the apocalypse happens because Cthulhu takes over the world. And you are playing people who are stuck in the world now, and Cthulhu has taken over, and all of the things that the cultist wanted has happened, and you're still around, and you have to survive in this post-apocalyptic Cthulhu world. And I can't remember, but it's Cthulhu something, and they sent it to me. It's actually fairly rules light, which is not normally my bag, but I read this and I think, this sounds pretty cool. So I might even do that in the channel eventually too, speaking of Cthulhu. And I can't remember why this oracle specifically reminds me of that. Maybe it's just the name. I don't know, but something twigged. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Oh, I'm realizing my chats are so far out of sync with the video. I'm just going to include context when I said it. It's probably a good idea. I fall behind real fast. So it's not just you. It's also me. Yeah, I'm not used to this whole YouTube chat thing either. So no worries, my friend. Yes, Rangers of Shadowdeep. Yes, it is a great game. Super fun. Related to Franken Systems, I have a grapple-esque that I want to emulate the clash mechanic from modern fighting games. No idea how to do it. Grapple is one of those things that always becomes probably more complicated than it absolutely needs to be. Even in the Broken Empires, the grapple mechanics are, it's not D&D 3.5. It's not crazy, but, it's certainly a variation of everything else in the combat system. And I don't even know why that is. Actually, I do know why that is, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been reading about this. And it has to do with the fact that if I swing a sword at you, I could hurt you, but I'm not going to prevent you from doing something else, typically speaking. But if I grapple you, now I prevent you from acting, or at the very least, you have to spend an action to break free or something like that. So that is the key difference design-wise in why all of these grapple mechanics have been complex over the years because of that one thing. As far as I can see and as far as I've read, and that makes sense to me. Anyway, an interesting little side bit. Legacy of Cthulhu. Yes, thank you. That is exactly what I was thinking of. Yes, survival Cthulhu game instead of an investigation one. Yes, it's a solo survival game in a post-apocalyptic world where Cthulhu has won. And it's a really beautiful little book, too. Pretty slim. Great art. It feels to me like the same kind of atmosphere that Twilight 2000 had, or has now in its 4th edition by Free League. It has nothing to do with nuclear war, but it is fully post-apocalyptic and, day-to-day survival stuff, which I'm really attracted to. I like that stuff. Not a lot of people want to play that stuff. Some people are into it, but I have a lot of friends back home who they don't like the apocalypse stuff, and I don't know why that is. It's just a thing. Maybe it's too depressing. I don't know. I remember when Twilight 2000, the 4th edition, came out. It was right around when I think Russia invaded Ukraine, and it was like, it felt really weird to be playing a game that takes place in a post-nuclear war Poland between NATO and with the Soviet Union in that case. But anyway, it's just a game, people. It's just a game. Can't remember the name of it, but I once played a rules light game, which was a D6 pool game, where you look for 5s and 6s. Sounds like Burning Wheel. And you can add more positive dice, but you must add as many negative dice. Yes, that sounds familiar to me. That's ringing a bell. Ringing a big old bell, but I cannot remember more. Gamma World. Yeah. I never actually... No, I did play Gamma World. I played the new version, essentially like the fourth ed, like the D&D 4th ed version of Gamma World, at like a mini con I was at a few years back. But I never played Gamma World growing up in the 70s and 80s. Never. A friend of mine had it, and I always was going to buy it because I remember seeing that box set somewhere in my memory, thinking that looks weird, but it was kind of sci-fi-ish to me, and I was not into sci-fi. And it was also really gonzo, really weird, and I think my young brain couldn't quite wrap itself around what the genre was supposed to be. I was pretty young when it came out, but yeah, Gamma World. Now, did they do a new version? I want to say that there's been so many post-apocalyptic mutant-based games that have come out over the past few years, but I can't remember. If they re-released a version. Yeah, Twilight 2K was launched around Russia v. Ukraine. As a strange thing. I wonder how that affected sales. I should ask Tomas over there at Free League next time I talk to him. Burning Wheel is from 4 to 6 and no exploding dice. No, you are not wrong. You are correct. I don't think there's exploding dice. It's been a long time. But yeah, you're right. Generally speaking, it's 4 to 6 are successes, but then you can have a different shade, and shade just means that you succeed on a 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there's like the black shade, I think, because that's a gray shade, I think. And then black shade is you succeed on 2, but good luck getting to that point. Exploding dice, though, I don't think so. I don't really remember all the ins and outs of Burning Wheel. I know that you can spend... Can you spend certain Artha, which is like their meta currency, on increasing dice rolls by adding to the pool? I don't remember. I don't remember. Burning Wheel is one of those games that people love or hate, and a lot of people I know hate it. I don't. I want to love it, but I can't because it frustrates me too much. But I certainly appreciate what they're trying to do in that game. And there's a lot of good stuff. I don't hate any game, even games that I'm not fans of at all or a fan of at all. I don't hate any game because to me, I can always find something in that game system that I'm like, that's really cool. Like I'm no fan of the Fate system, but there's aspects, hilarious. There's aspects of the Fate game, not aspects, by the way. There are parts of the Fate game system that I think are great. So yeah, even games I don't like, I find something to like. GW was on the shelves with all the... Oh, Gamworld. I see GW and I think Games Workshop. Gamworld was on the shelves with all the other TSR stuff. I never grabbed Boot Hill, though. No, neither did I. And that was another one that I was always like, I should buy that. But again, I was too young to really appreciate the Western, right? Because to me, Westerns were things that like my parents watched constantly, and I had no interest in it. It's funny now as an older man, I'm like, I could run a Western. When I saw Unforgiven in, what was that, 92? The greatest Western ever made, by the way. For those of you who've never seen it, it is a masterpiece. Really, really, really depressing, but but it's a masterpiece. I would run a Western, or I might even do something like a Deadlands thing, which is like fantasy Western, fantasy Wild West. I don't know. We'll see. I tried to play Alone Against the Dark by Andrea Sailigoi, and I just couldn't get into it. Felt like it was repetitive. Kept running into werewolves and clowns. I don't know what that is. I've never heard of Alone Against the Dark. Do tell. Always curious to hear about a game I've never heard about. The most recent Gamworld was 7th edition in 2010. Maybe that was the one I played. Yeah, actually, you know what? That sounds right because I played it shortly before I moved to LA. So I think that tracks. That must be the one that I... Oh, here we go. I picked up the new OSR Dolmenwood campaign setting. So did I. I bought the whole kit and caboodle on Kickstarter. I was thinking of plunking it in one of the regions of the Broken Empires. Now just trying to find what region to put it in or near. Well, of course, you're free to do whatever you want. I could suggest to you that if you wanted to plunk the entire Dolmenwood setting, you could plunk it down in an area called the Shroud, because the Shroud is... a gigantic section of the Broken Empires that was the product and the victim of a ginormous magical experiment gone wrong, where the entire land mass was essentially cut off from reality for 1,000 years. And it very recently started to reappear. The mists around the Shroud started to part, and so now adventurers are starting to go into there. And that is intentionally left blank because I want you to be able to do whatever you want in there. So... sounds like a perfect candidate. I am not a huge fan of Dolmenwood, and I know that's not very fashionable to say right now. I think it's an incredibly well-done product, and I think it is just a work of... I can't imagine the years of labor that went into making that thing. It's a good-looking product. It's got just everything you could possibly need for an OSR hexcrawl game. It's just that particular setting, to me, is... not really my bag. I thought it was going to be one thing. It's sort of like a Grimm's fairy tales kind of setting, which is great. But I'm not a fan of what I call menagerie settings, which is why I'm not a huge fan of D&D 5e. What 5e has become. I'm not a fan of settings where you can play, insect people and cat people, and a lot of people love that. I do not. Menageries, no. What is Waterdeep become, a zoo? Look at all the animals. Walking around a zoo here. Get them back in the zoo. Is what I think. So when I saw that in Dolmenwood, I was like, it's not for me. That's not for me. But it's a hell of a product. So if you do like that stuff, I heartily recommend it. But yeah, to answer your question, Eric, you could easily plunk that down into the Shroud. It would work great. You can plunk anything down in the Shroud. It would work great. I read, but never played Burning Wheel. I played Torchbearer, and it was a fantastic experience. I don't know if I would run it, but it was amazing to play. I'm glad you had a good experience. I've never played Torchbearer. I bought it, I read it, I threw it against the wall like I threw Burning Wheel against the wall multiple times because it was a little... It challenged my assumptions in a way that I was not ready to be challenged. I guess is just the most honest way of saying it. But it's also why I'm so fascinated by those games, because I don't quite get them. Burning Wheel, I've ran a few times now. I think I'm a lot closer to that. But Torchbearer, I could not wrap my brain around it. I love the idea of it. I love the idea that it's Darkest Dungeons is sort of emulating Torchbearer. And yes, I believe that Torchbearer came around before Darkest Dungeons, the video game, came around, I think. They feel very, very, very similar, but I just couldn't do it. I'd love to try it. I'd love to play it. But I'm glad you had a good experience with it. Alone Against the Dark is more a dungeon crawler than a TTRPG. Well, that's interesting because a dungeon crawler is a TTRPG. So I'm curious what you mean by that. How do you define, because you seem to be making a hard line between dungeon crawler and role-playing game. Do tell. Let's talk about that, because that's of interest to me. No More said, it's more of a dungeon crawl where you have to keep track of the places you visited and encounter monsters. Oh, I see. So, I see what you mean now. So it's kind of like, almost like a board game in a way. You have to close 7 hell gates to find food and supplies. So it's very, very, very targeted. It's very narrow in its design goals. Like, when you play this game, you are setting out to close these gates, and that's what you're doing. So that can feel very board gamey. Okay, I get that. There are a lot of games that do that, and I used to be really, not against it, but I used to be really hesitant and apprehensive of games that were a little too narrow in their focus. Like, for example, Blades in the Dark. When Blades in the Dark came out, I thought, yeah, but what if I want to do something that isn't in the city? which is a stupid thing to say, because it's like playing Monopoly and saying, yeah, but why can't I play chess? It's a different game, dummy. It's a different game. You want to play chess? Go play chess. Now, that said, to me, and this was a long time ago, I don't feel this way anymore, but I saw Blades of the Dark, and I was like, it's telling me how to roleplay. It's trying to channel me into its idea of what the game is supposed to be, and the game can be whatever I want it to be. I was very rebellious against that. I've softened on that over the years and realized, yeah, no, it's just trying to provide a particular experience. If you don't like it, you don't have to play it. I am not a fan of Blades in the Dark, by the way. Again, it's a game that I really respect and I can admire for what it does, because what it does very well. It's just that what it does is really not of interest to me. But I certainly understand why so many people like it. Oh, when you go insane if you face the wrong monsters. This is in Alone Against the Dark. But the dice decided I was going to face werewolves and clowns and killer dolls, and it got repetitive. It might be a dice problem. Could be. Menagerie setting, like a kitchen sink setting? No, menagerie specifically referring to a bunch of animals, as in the glass menagerie, as in a bunch of animals walking around pretending to be player characters. If you're not a dwarf or an elf, you're a monster that needs to be killed. Oh yeah, Dr. Dolittle would love most modern RPGs. That is absolutely true. And I can say this at the same time as loving Morrowind, right? Or any of those games, Oblivion or Skyrim, where the races of that world, a lot of them are like animal people. You got the Khajiit, which are like cat people, which always reminds me of the 1980s horror movie and the David Bowie song. You've got the lizard people. You've got all of this stuff, and yet I accept it in that world. Although I never play it. Like I never play a Khajiit. I never play a menagerie person. I'm always, well, when I play those games, I'm always a human, because I want to see it as close to my own perspective as possible. On the first play, second play, I'll play something else. But Anyway, we're not talking video games here. Yeah, Torchbearer is a very different experience. A total shift in thought process is required. Yeah, that seemed apparent, and that's why I was having some problems with it. Write down heroic deeds. When you have a free moment, check out the leveling XP system. Very innovative. Cool. I will do that. Have you ever played The Dark Eye? It's a role-playing game that had a fair amount of success here in Europe in the 1980s and is now its 5th edition. A fair amount of success. I think it's safe to say that the Dark Eye, Das Schwarz Auge, Das Auge Schwarz, whatever it is, was probably the most popular role-playing game over there. From what I've been told, you will know better, of course, but every European I talk to says, "Oh yeah, it was not D&D, it was Das Schwarz Auge that we all were playing." But I've never played it. A friend of mine, Jared, has played it, and he says it's pretty intense, pretty rules heavy. Is that your experience with it? I've never even looked at it. I wouldn't even know what it looked like if I saw the book. You should try taking a look at it, because I think you might like it. It uses a skill-based system, and the rules 3d20. Is it additive? 3d20 additive? Because that would make me crazy. I can't even play GURPS, and that's 3d6. Tony the Tiger, my first Skyrim PC. Was it? You went for the Khajiit? Yeah. I was doing a game for charity online. This may have been during the pandemic. Some convention. And the DM was Mark Meir, who I know from the old days. Mark is, he was the voice of Commander Shepard on the Mass Effect games. He's a big D&D nerd. And so he was running this game. There was me and a bunch of other people who I don't think I knew any of them. They all had their, bits of fame. They were known for various things. But I was asked to be part of this thing, and so I played it was set in Waterdeep. It was a Christmas adventure, I think. So it was campy and goofy and whatever. That's fine. But it was set in Waterdeep, and I had not been in the Forgotten Realms in years, and I wanted to do it right. So I was playing like an Uthgard barbarian who was rolling into town for the first time. He had never been to the big city kind of thing. But he was a human barbarian. Absolutely 100%. Didn't trust magic. He's kind of in the wrong place there. And when I sat down on the Zoom meeting to play this game, all these other people, one guy was playing, this one girl was playing this little gnome. Okay, well, gnomes are, they're canon, so fine. But the gnome was a little boy. And I was like, okay. And then there was somebody else who was playing some elephant creature thing, which I was like, I don't know what the hell that is. But whatever, whatever. And then one guy was playing a dragon, but he was playing it with a puppet. So he'd just have a puppet on the screen. And he talked with sort of like a strong bad voice or something. And he would talk like this. And it was all just a big joke. And I was like, okay. Anyway, so they're playing all these monsters. And here I am, my Uthgard barbarian. And we're walking through the streets of Waterdeep. And Mark's describing all of these cat people and lion people and dragon people walking around. And I, the player, was stunned because I was like, what is happening? But I said in character, who let all of these monsters out of their cages? And oh my God, the shock. Oh! They were so uncomfortable that I said, I'm like, they're monsters. Get it. They need to be killed, guys. Anyway. So yeah, the menagerie settings, not for me. Not for me. But hey, if you're into it, fill your boots. Just not me. I have wares to beat you with. Oh, this is a Skyrim joke. Regarding Dolmenwood, like yourself, I'm not a huge fan of the silly races. I didn't say silly, that's your word. For the record. I was more attracted by the resource side of the world. Every hex has info and ideas to inspire ideas. But frogmen? Silly. Yeah, that's what I mean. As a world and as a supplement to make it easy to run a hex crawl, it's magnificent. They have multiple maps that give you political maps, geopolitical maps, resource maps, where you can find different types of herbs, where you can find different kinds of monsters and harvest them for various things that you can use in various alchemical processes. That's all wild, wild stuff. I love it. But yeah, then there's, frogmen. So there's that. And again, either you like that or not, and I see a lot of people who I respect on YouTube going on and on about this thing, and they love it, and that's great. In fact, the whole reason why I bought this one night, let's face it, in a drunken stupor, because that's when I was still drinking, watching Ben Milton talk about Dolmenwood when it was just going into Kickstarter. This is years ago now. And I was like, that sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to buy that. So I did. That's non-alcoholic, by the way. I definitely did buy it. Oh, boy, did I ever. Everything. Like all $300 worth of it. And then it arrived at my door. And I opened it. This is recently. Like a few weeks ago. 2 months ago, maybe. And I opened it. And I read it. And I went, why did I buy this? This isn't for me. I am not an old school hex crawl GM guy at all. Unless I'm doing my own setting. And I do not like D&D. And Dolmenwood's system is just D&D all over again. It's yet another D&D clone. That's what everybody does. Oh, I have an idea. Let's do D20 against armor class with hit points. And again, if you like that, then great. A lot of people do. Most people do. It's the most popular game in the world for a reason. But it ain't for me. So when I saw it was just another clone of D&D, oh, okay. Now, that said, they do a lot of neat things in it, like their travel system in it is cool, and their camping system. Like, there's really good stuff. Again, I might not like a game, but I can always find really good stuff in it, and that was something I was really impressed with. But, no. No frogmen for me. I had such high hopes for SNV. I've already forgotten what we're talking about. What are we talking about, Scott? SNV. It looks great on paper. The players were excited. Running it, however, flopped miserably. My players hated it too. SNV. Help me. I cannot. What is this? What are we talking about? Look one message up. Look one message up. Trying. It's all over the place. Dolmenwood? No. SMV. Dark Eye? No. Heroic Deeds? No. Help me, Scott, help me. Yeah. I can't find it. Strong Bad. Should have been Trogdor. Nice. Nice. Burn and they turn the villagers. The Dark Eye. Basically, it's a roll under against the skill, usually based on 3 attributes. And if one or more of the 3d20 rolls are too high, you can spend points from a pool to reduce them. So it sounds like it has elements of cipher system in there. Cipher system in there, where you can reduce your own, basically, stat points to do various things. Does that sound right? Do you know cipher system? Roll under against a skill, usually based on 3 attributes. Okay, so that sounds a little like Hornmaster, where a skill is an average of 3 different attributes. I know that's not what this is. But if you're doing a skill, let's say it's based on strength, dexterity, constitution, let's say, and each of those have numbers, and you roll 3d20s, and if one or more of the 3d20s are too high, you can spend points from a rule to reduce them. I'm trying to reverse engineer the game system just from one comment. Not just a D&D clone. It's yet another OSE/OSR clone. Yes, it is. And, again, there's a reason why this stuff is popular. Like, look at Kelsey with Shadow Dark. Shadow Dark is probably the most popular OSR game in the world right now, I would wager. And it has a few little interesting things about it, like the whole, torch mechanic and stuff, and the way that, you level up and with random feats and stuff like that. But really, it's just D&D. It's just a sort of simple version of D&D all over again. But people love it, and they love it because it works, and because it's easy, and because it looks great, and there's all kinds of reasons why they love it. But yeah, this is what people do. They look at D&D and they go, "Oh, I have to remake this, but with my house rules." There are so many more options. That's what the whole point of the Sage's Library is to show people all of the different kinds of games out there and all the different kinds of systems you could use to accomplish what you need to accomplish without just relying on, a D20 versus armor class. Again. This is Dark Eye. It sounds complicated, but it actually isn't. It has a lot of detail and resolution. I mean, I'm always willing to look at things. I mean, I should by now. The thing's been been out for years. I'm kind of surprised, actually, that I've never looked at it. Because, pretty popular game. Do you have an idea of when you will do the next Me, Myself, and I episode? Yeah, I wanted to do it this week, and then I ran out of time because I'm working on The Broken Empires, obviously, but also voiceover work is getting a little busy for me right now. But yeah, soon before the momentum drops again. So I'm hoping to do it next week. Now, when will it come out? Shortly thereafter, because it doesn't take me that long. Like, I'll shoot it. The process of shooting it will take, call it a day, and that includes setup, shooting, transferring footage, uploading footage, getting the edit ready to go for a rough cut. And then the second day is the rough cut and the fine cut. And then if I need more time, into a third day to do like music and effects and titling and stuff. But I could probably get that done within the first 48 hours. And then I'd release it whenever my algorithm tells me it's time to release it. Probably Monday, because that seems to be the day, or did. That was the day when I was still releasing regular stuff. I love how Harnworld basically does, and has been doing for decades, what Dolmenwood does with their region accessories. And I'm a fanboy of everything for Columbia Games. Yeah, Harn is something, man. Harn is one of those settings that I did not get when I first saw it back in 1980, 80, 81, 82, something like that. 84, maybe? I don't even remember when it came out, but somewhere back then. I was too young to appreciate what they were trying to do. They were trying to create a real, living, breathing, detailed, realistic feeling world. The advertising back then was Harn, where the fantasy is real, or something like that. And they were right. But at that time, I was, Lord of the Rings boy. I wanted that. I wanted epic quests in worlds like Middle-earth, and I couldn't imagine what it was like to have an adventure based around bringing in sheaves of wheat to the Lord so that the people didn't starve. When I got to my 30s, I revisited Harn and realized, oh my God, this is awesome. And I think a lot of that had to do with reading A Song of Ice and Fire at the time, because George Martin, his work really brought the fantasy down to an extremely grounded level, a very political level, but a very human level. And that was a perfect match for Harn for me. So I was reading A Song of Ice and Fire at the same time that I rediscovered Harn and fell in love all over again. I was like, oh my God, but fell in love in a way that I could actually appreciate now. So my Harn games are basically like playing a Game of Thrones. They're very, very political. They're very grounded. They're very dark and filled with, complicated NPCs and difficult moral decisions and all kinds of stuff like that. But yes, Columbia Games, great fellas, great folks. They keep bringing me out to Gen Con every year. So they've been very generous, very, very generous. Oh, the original message where I mentioned SNV. You could just tell me what SNV is, man. I'm never going to find it. I can't scroll through the time codes now. I'll give it to Shadow Dark. The layout alone is worth the money. Well, Kelsey did win an Emmy for that layout. Let's face it. She won an Emmy for literally everything she was nominated for. People talk about the layout because when you open the book, everything you need to know is on facing pages. And it's beautiful and all that stuff, right? Like the art's cool and appropriate, and it feels, correct to the world. Yeah, she won literally everything. I was at the table with her that year. With her and Dave Thalmavor was there. He won. Justin Alexander won for his book, the game. So You Want to Be a Game Master? Everybody we were there. Everybody we were there with at that table won their Ennies. And Kelsey literally won every single one she was nominated for. I remember when we were leaving the hotel, she was laden down with medals, laden with gold. It was super, super fun. Oh, Scum and Villainy. That's the first time I've seen it here, so I must have missed it. Yeah, Scum and Villainy. There it is. Yeah, Scum and Villainy, Blades of the Dark, but Star Wars style, basically. Is that right? Is that what it is? Or is it Powered by the Apocalypse? No, it's Blades in the Dark Star Wars style. I played it once. Again, the system's not to my liking. There's not much to it. It's very hand-wavy, I feel. But hey, people like it. Oh, yeah, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Just saw the first episode. Read the book as well. Great stuff. I read the book years ago. Still have it. Want to read it again. I'm actually reading Fire and Blood right now, which is the history of the Targaryens, which I think is what the second HBO series is based on. I haven't seen that series yet because I assumed it was based on Fire and Blood, so I needed to read the book first. Finally getting around to it. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the stories, the short stories are fantastic. I hope they do it justice. It looks like they do based on the trailers I've seen. But hey, it's out now, so maybe I will go watch it after the stream. Ooh, that will be exciting. Although I do have to watch Fallout as well. It is Wednesday night. I think there's a new Fallout. If you had the appropriate resources, would you ever expand your content to more in-person group plays? Well, the key to that one is the first part of that sentence, if you had the appropriate resources. I have an interest in doing more in-person group plays, more actual plays with people, but only if I can make it as high quality as the Blade Runner one was. I have no interest in what I call the talking head AP, where people on a Zoom call, talking heads, talk, maybe you see a VTT, you see a lot of downtime, they're making a lot of stupid jokes that have nothing to do with the game. My whole thing is I want to cut out all that stuff, or the vast majority of it, and I want people who do not normally watch live plays, because they're sane, I want them to be able to watch mine and be entertained. Ideally, my goal, and this is my goal with Me, Myself, and I, too, I want people who don't know anything about role-playing games to enjoy the show. Now, that's a tall order, right? But certainly with the AP, with the Blade Runner AP, my goal was I want to make an actual play that is the best on YouTube. That it's highly produced, that's got sound effects, it's got music, but more importantly, it has the correct seriousness of play that particular genre demands. And that doesn't mean we weren't making jokes and having fun. Of course we were. A lot of that got left on the cutting room floor. But it was a gargantuan post-production process. The recording of the show was actually easy. We recorded the whole thing in like 8 hours. So it was a long day of gaming, but it was a great day. Those long days of gaming are great and rare these days. But the post-production was a nightmare and took me forever. So yeah, I would love to be able to do it, but to be able to expand more into doing actual plays with groups, but I would want to do it at the level that I've already set, and that would require a crew. That would require a dedicated audio engineer. That would require a dedicated cameraman, and it would require a dedicated post-production supervisor as well. And as you probably know, Me, Myself, and I, you're looking at all those people. I am it. I am everything. So to have to do all of that by myself again, I get short of breath and think, there's no way I can do that. But if I had a crew, now the only way that happens is if this channel generates enough revenue to be able to do that. If I was making the kind of money that certain YouTubers can make, I would be able to channel all of that towards a dedicated crew for an actual play series. That would be heaven. That would be amazing. But right now, guys, I don't have it. I have like 45,000 subscribers, which sounds like a lot for a Dungeon Tuber guy, but it's not. It's a drop in the bucket. And people don't tend to watch a lot of the stuff I do unless they're dedicated folks like you who are watching right now, whether you are a patron or a channel member or just a subscriber or not, right? So thank you all for continuing to watch. So as much as I'd love to do it, I can't. I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the stamina to get through that again. So we'll see. If things pick up, if this process that I'm starting now about really trying to generate more patrons and more members and give back more and more and more, then that'll be a huge impetus. The more people that come on board and sign up and sort of tell me with their wallets that they want this to happen, then I'll do it. But I can't do it on my own. It's too much. Crazy work. Fantasy book recommendations. Well, as I did mention, I'm reading Fire and Blood right now by George R. Martin. Probably another series he won't finish. Oh, don't get me started. Scum and Ability Star Wars with the serial numbers filed off. Yeah, it sure is. Yes, the trailer for the show, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Looks good. As a solo player and a horror lover, I wish there was more out there that was scary besides the Call of Cthulhu and its numerous spin-offs. Do you know anything that might be fun to play that's scary? Yes, absolutely. You can do New World of Darkness, the core set, or whatever they call it now. Chronicles of Darkness, God Machine, I don't know. What I have is the new World of Darkness that came out, I think, around 2004, maybe. Just the core book is about humans. You're just a human, and you have to deal with everything. So that's great. Chill is another one that's great. Unknown Armies, my God, what a magnificent mind fuck that is. That game. What are some other horror games? I mean, geez, you could play Twilight 2000 and feel the horror game. There's Free League released The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead game obviously is a horror game. It's deeply personal. It's entirely about the characters. It's entirely about the people. The zombies are essentially a force of nature in that game. They're really not the focus. They're just the thing you must always strive against. But really, the focus of that game is about the people, right? Just like the show or the comic, presumably. I never really read the comic. So yeah, Chill, New World of Darkness, Unknown Armies, for sure. Probably some other ones in there. Delta Green, yeah. Delta Green is pretty cool. It's Lovecraft mixed with X-Files. That's basically exactly right. Delta Green can be very, very heavy. Depending on how you run it, I run it extremely heavy, very, very serious. My players love it, but it's exhausting for all of us. So when we finish a Delta Green session, we're all just like, oh my God, you know? But that's what we want. That's what we like. Someone who does not watch actual plays, well, then I'm your target audience. Yeah, actual plays are tough, man. They're tough to watch. They're tough to get through. There are very few that are done with any quality. Not diminishing any of the people's enthusiasm or their skill as role players or any of that. It's just that I have maintained since 1980 that role-playing games are not spectator sports, that they are participation-based. It's just like listening to some guy tell you his D&D story from his session last night. Unless that guy is some master storyteller, that's going to be insufferably boring. So too as it is with most actual plays. I find the value of YouTube actual plays that aren't mine to be if you're looking to learn a system. Like I watched a ton of Burning Wheel actual plays for a while when I was preparing to run it because I wanted to see the game in action because that was a game that like I've said many times, I threw the book against the wall many, many times because I couldn't quite figure out how it's supposed to work. So I turned to YouTube and said, hey, actual plays, YouTube. So I watched a ton of that. But even that, I was like, okay, that's enough. Once I figured out, okay, so this is what the structure of play looks like. Once I got that, I was done with it. My show is a show, right? Me, Myself, and I is a show. It's designed to be watched for entertainment, not as a teaching tool. Now, if people learn how to do things from those 4 seasons I've did, that's great. But that is not its primary purpose, right? Its primary purpose is not education. It's entertainment. So when people watch my show and they think, well, I didn't really learn how to play Dominion rules in season 3. No, you wouldn't have. That was never the point. It was never the design goal. Night of the Seven Kingdoms came. Oh, no, I want to talk. No. I don't want to hear it. Don't talk about it. No spoilers. Board game, Night Cage. This in reference to horror games. It's a board game, but the Night Cage and its expansion Shrieking Hollow is really good. Have not heard of those. Alien from Free League is pretty good. It's inspiring fear. Yeah, and it has some pretty cool fear mechanics as well, which I think they altered a bit in the second edition. Could be wrong about that, but from what I've heard, it's slightly different. Still there, though. The idea of fear is still very much a palpable force in that game. If I watch an AP, I'm not watching for the role-playing. I'm watching to see how the mechanics work, which is how I found you. Well, I hope that you continue to watch me despite it not being principally an educational thing about learning mechanics. I do hope that I was mildly entertaining for you to watch. I mean, presumably you're a member, so I guess you're here. Me too. How do you keep the game scary if you're used to something like Mythic to serve as a GM? I know Mythic has the horror section, but it doesn't quite scratch the itch when you're 100% solo. I find it's easier to scare myself than it is to scare other people because horror and fear in a role-playing game are entirely about buy-in. The GM has to take it seriously, and the players have to as well. The players have to buy into the fact that this is supposed to be a horror scenario, which means they all have to agree that they cannot do things like wreck the moment with a stupid joke or ridicule or belittle what's happening in the scene. Because as soon as they do that, they've destroyed the experience. There's nothing worse than a group of players ostensibly playing a horror game and they don't know when to shut the hell up with the jokes because you can't maintain an atmosphere that way. So it's entirely about buy-in. Hence, if you're by yourself, you're the only one who has to buy in. So it's really about allowing your imagination to go where it needs to go, into the dark places. I did a horror episode in season 1 of Me, Myself, and I, and it was great. Did I scare myself? No, I didn't scare myself. But, you know, it was fun. It was fun going down that road. There was a lot of horrific aspects in that whole season, actually. There's horrific aspects in all of the seasons, but in terms of scaring myself, I guess if that's what you're really trying to do, you're going to have a hard time. Yeah. I had some other comment about that, and I've just lost my train of thought. I watch your featureless gray terrain and the system reviews. Those are more instructional, right? Those are very specifically about here's how to play this, or here's my experience in playing this. I Scare Myself. Great cover by Thomas Dolby. For Call of Cthulhu, there's a cool oracle called the Solo Investigator's Handbook. Yeah, I may have read that at one point. I think it's very familiar. Yeah, I could never run a horror game with my players, partly because I laugh during horror movies, but also my players are meme and pun kings. Yeah, that'll do it. That'll kill it. That'll kill it immediately. Now, there are games that you can get away with that to an extent. I think Unknown Armies is one of those games because Unknown Armies isn't really a horror game so much as it is an existential angst game. And also it's very tied to 90s nihilism as well. So, I mean, the nihilism's back, so maybe it would still work today. But yeah, you don't have to treat it quite as seriously, I think, as some of the other games. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have a ton of experience with Unknown Armies, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, looks like I'm caught up on the chat. Amazing. And that's pretty good because we've been at this for an hour and 18 minutes. So I'm going to call it here, but thank you, everyone, for joining me. And just a reminder, if you do want to take part in the chat, consider becoming a sponsor member here on YouTube or a D10 or D12 member over on Patreon. And you, too, can ask me questions, and we can get into lovely discussions. So, yeah, thanks. And what else can I tell you? I don't have any sort of major announcements or anything other than that the work on the Broken Empires keeps going onwards and upwards. And, yeah, we're getting very close now. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So, huzzah, huzzah. Thanks for joining me, guys, and we will see you next time. Okay, bye.